Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the Founders Code podcast. With us today, we have an incredible founder who is going to help you stay on the very cutting edge of the technological world, Brendan Severin. Hi, Brendan.
Hey. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Jamil.
To our viewers and listeners, can you tell us a bit about ConductorQuantum and what is the vision of the future that you are trying to help create?
We're building quantum computers on silicon chips, and our AI software that we're developing will create qubits on those chips 1,000 times faster than current methods. The future I see is that everyone has access to a quantum computer from their desk. And I think we see what access to the world's largest LLMs has done to society. And I think that's kind of just the tipping point of then entering real world, groundbreaking compute and what that can do to everyday humanity.
And can you correct me if I'm wrong? Because in preparation, I was talking to ChatGPT and I'm like, I'm a noob when it comes to like quantum computing because it's a very complicated field. So I was like, okay, this is what Brendan does. Try to explain it to me in the more human terms. And what he came up with was interesting. So what your software is doing is, for example, we have a magical instrument with thousands of strings, which do fantastic things, do simulations, do all of this magic. And whenever you want to play it, every time you have to tweak it, every single string, which takes a lot of time to make sure that it plays really well. And what your software does is using an AI to help tweak all of the strings at once to make sure that each time you start, you get the most out of your quantum computer capabilities. Is that somewhere around?
Exactly. Actually, yeah. That's a great way of putting it. And I think the other thing is that it's not each time you play your string, it's each time you finish, or you want to play your instrument, each time you finish a song, you're gonna have to retune that instrument. If you listen to some of the old famous electric guitarists like Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton, you can hear them tuning their guitar mid-song because they've just come out of this blazing solo, and that's really where our AI comes in. So we tune up, rather than strings, but actual voltages and power sources that are applied to these tiny little, you could call them strings, but they're metal gate electrodes on a silicon chip. And we use that to isolate qubits, basically, which are in the form of individual electrons.
Quantum gaps.
Yeah. So it's funny because the science, you're going to get me on a roll now. The science is based on kind of like maybe chapter 4 of like introductory quantum mechanics, which is like particle in a box, solving that infinite potential well of you have an electron, it's in a box, it can't hop to the left, it can't hop to the right. What are its energy values, And you have these quantized, as you say, gaps between different energy levels. Similar to a string, will resonate at different frequencies based on its tension and things like that and its mass. So yeah.
Okay. It took me a while trying to even wrap my head around the concept of like trapping electrons in order to allow them to do something useful. Moving back from it, what was your childhood like? What showed signs of you moving into like high tech direction?
Childhood was great. I think, even though there are like bits and bumps, I ended up here and I'm happy. So I don't know, I kind of wouldn't change it for what it was at all. There wasn't much, let's say, high tech to start with. But there was a lot of entrepreneurship. So my mom ran many of her own businesses. Similarly with other family members, uncles and aunts, and I just kind of saw
family business. Was it a family
No,
business?
actually, no. In some cases, yeah. So Parts of the family, let's say, would have a real estate business, and they would, develop property. Other family members would maybe do consulting. Some family members would be, making orange juice, and that was and that was my life. I would go to school, come home, do my homework first, squeeze orange juice, wake up the next day, deliver them to hotels because they wanted freshly squeezed orange juice, go to school, rinse, repeat. And yeah, so not very high tech at all. But I saw this kind of world of, look, like, you can do what you want, you can work, you can earn money. And the effort we put in had a direct impact into our standard of living. So it's kind of like a self-reinforcing feedback
Yeah.
loop. But the high tech stuff probably happened in school when I was like doing sciences, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, physics, maths, chemistry, biology. I just couldn't believe it was possible to like understand what was going on at the fundamental level. And then I quickly realized, oh, actually, we don't really understand what's going on at the fundamental level. And then you pull on that thread and you end up in quantum.
So even starting from the very early years, you've had a lot of experience on how grades and hardware ethics are a norm, is something that's standard in people's lives.
Yeah, 100%. Like from the beginning. And I don't know if I think it's two things. It's like my family's culture. I think it's also part like immigrant culture as well, because so my family's from the Caribbean. My grandparents moved to the UK post like Second World War, as part of like the Great Migration back to the motherland. They were part of the
Yeah.
Commonwealth, and funny enough, they moved with British passports. So the Caribbean island they left wasn't independent. So they were born with British passports, even though they weren't. Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Nice.
Yeah. And so, but you go to England and it's like, okay, yeah, you want to, make something work. Their kids were born into that. My mom, my aunt, and so on, and my aunts, and then I was kind of born into that. And I think I see a similar sort of behavior in the States, right? Where you look at some of these amazing companies that are being built. It's people land here and they want to make the dream work, right? I guess top of mind is Jensen Huang, right? So
Yeah. Because that guy, he used to be a janitor at some point, right?
yeah.
I just
Yeah, he was
looking
working
at
at
this,
Denny's.
yes, a story like that, and you think like, if he can do it, like anyone can, but you have to be able to like sacrifice a lot for a long period of years, and just
Yeah,
do it and do it. Because even Nvidia success didn't happen like overnight.
like
Like,
20, 30 years.
exactly right.
And I think the other thing about Jensen is like, what I take away from it is less the work. I feel like the work is kind of obvious and the sacrifice, but, and maybe that's just me, but more that no job is kind of too small. I mean, sure, now, I mean, he's probably like, okay, I don't have time to clean toilets, but like when you consider where he started, it wasn't like, oh, it's like, this is what I have, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. And is that something that you take when building your own startup's culture? Do you take a lot of lessons from stories like that?
Yeah. I think a lot of them is kind of ingrained in me as well.
Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, I think it's these small things, right? Where, culture is less about like what you say and more about what you do. And so, and I can delve into that a bit more because it's really just clicked for me. It goes back to, childhood, just like, for example, this orange juice business, it's like this, it's like the same person, on the phone to the hotel selling or, doing presentations. Oh, we're going to have grapefruits and, birds of paradise flowers for the breakfast table if you want those. It's the same person like going to the port, harassing people to clear the goods as quickly as possible, and like lifting these oranges. And so it's just like, yeah, it's the full stack, right? Like, and almost you kind of have to know the full stack to then optimize it. You can't really just come in and hope like, oh, I don't touch that. You'll kind of figure it out, or just, unless you can find someone who's like already adept at that skill and been through it, and you can hire them and manage them really well. But even then, there's still an element of trust you have to put in. And, it's the small things like, okay, the label tag on this bottle, is it straight or not? And that was my job. I had to make sure the labels were straight. And I remember my mom just like, come on, the labels are straight. And because I think the way you approach certain things is how you'll typically actually approach everything. Like, obviously, there's always the case where you have, a genius and, so-called genius, and their rooms are messy, but, they come up with general relativity and blah, 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 blah. But that's often like them kind of in their own sort of world. But when you're, I feel, trying to build like a well-oiled machine, you want to make sure that everybody's on the tracks and the train's just going, and so it's the little things, make sure there's paper around, easily accessible. And these are also things I kind of saw when I visited labs during my PhD, where I think it's like the Niels Bohr Institute, there's always like a pen or a paper within like hand's reach. There are whiteboards by the coffee machines, these little things, and there's never crumbs on the lunch table because you wanted to sit down and write. You didn't want to be like, So, yeah, it all accumulates in the long term.
Do you think there's when I'm listening to founder stories and when I'm trying to evaluate myself as a founder comparing to those stories, I sometimes think, okay, I can be one of the two. I can be either like the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk type of founder who are really strict, who like, this is how it's supposed to be done. I'm gonna be saying, if I see somebody who's doing it a different way, I will either tell them or fire them. And that kind of allows for quick progress. And there are other type of founders which are just like, it's okay, we'll teach them, we'll guide them, we'll be gentle, we'll be nice. What do you think about yourself? Like which type of founder are you going to be within like 10, 15 years when asking other people about you?
I worry it's going to be a bit of both, depending on the circumstance. And the reason being because I've already seen it now. Like sometimes you just don't have, I say sometimes, you really don't have the time. Especially with something deep tech where, look, like, low revenue or zero revenue relative to your B2B SaaS counterparts. And so the money you have in the bank is just a ticking time bomb to get to your milestones. Now, at the same time, though, I think, if you look at people like, let's say, Steve, I think as he got later in his career, he started to say, oh, we're building a team and it's actually helpful to educate people and not just like fire them straight away. And suddenly you have Jensen, who's kind of a mixture where I think he says, torture them into greatness. And other times there's a moment where you kind of just like have to really pick what matters, what's the priority at that time. And, sometimes you just can't sweat the small things because you just have this thing. It's like, okay, push for that. It's okay. The bins aren't tidied up right now. Like you'll get someone to take them out. That's okay. That's not a priority. But when this is done, we're fixing this, So yeah, I hope it's a mixture of both because I really believe actually those two skills are applied in different contexts to reach the maximum reward. And I also feel like I can wish and say, this is what I think I'll be. I think let other people judge me and tell you, right?
As a founder, what do you think are your strongest suits?
Not giving up.
Killer persistence. Persevere through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about your weakest skills, weakest points that you've identified that you still have to do? It doesn't mean you avoid them, but you just know that those things are tough.
I think it's balance between perfection and moving quickly. Very similar to what we kind of just discussed. Because the playing field is different, or at least we might think it is. It's science, you need to be precise, but at the same time, you want to get feedback. So you want to ship whatever you have out there as quickly as possible. And you will almost iterate your way to perfection. And that's something that I feel I'm working on. I think I'm getting much better at it. You learn it quite quickly. It's just like this muscle you have to exercise. But I'd like it to be better. And obviously the dream is you can do both at the same time. And some people might say, oh, it's not possible. I hate it when people say it's not possible. So I'm going to try and prove them wrong.
For now, it's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe for you.
And what part of your work do you enjoy the most?
Pick one.
Two. Okay. Let's go for two.
I can pick one. It's really hard. That's why. That's what I enjoy. That's the part of it I enjoy. It's really hard to do. And so growth is inevitable, whether it's just personally or as a team or a state of mind or scientifically or product wise. It's hard. It's why I did quantum in the first place. I was like, that seems really hard. I was busy learning about engineering alloys, but quantum was the harder subject. So yeah, let's do that. and that's always led to very fun times for me. I don't know, I call it type 2 fun, I guess they call it, right? Where, in a year, 2 years time, you'd be sitting in a bar looking around saying, oh, remember when we did this? And, we thought the world was going to end and blah, blah, blah.
It gets me thinking about an interesting thing. When I started going to therapy and talking about my founder experiences, one of the things I've uncovered, I used to always try to get into the hardest thing possible. But then part of it was because if you fail at something that's insanely hard, then it's okay. Obviously, like there was 99.999% like chance to fail because it's almost impossible. That makes it easier to deal with yourself, internal kind of voices when you fail. But then when you do something easy, you still have a chance of failing. But then if you fail at something easy, then it's almost like says a lot about me. Was there ever a part of you that was thinking, I'll do the hardest thing possible? Because even if I fail, it's nothing big.
No, there wasn't. I didn't really think about failing, actually. I more thought about the growth, the journey along the way. And now I realize where that actually came from.
Tell me.
It was during childhood, where in secondary school, we do this run every year for charity where you basically run 10 miles from the school into central London, or from actually central London out to the school. And if you want to do in the last 2 years of high school, sorry, the Americanisms are really getting secondary school. You can run 20 miles where you start at the school in Harrow and then you run into London and you run back out. And I remember doing 10 miles the first year. I was like, that was tough, but I did it. But I was like, there's no way I'm doing double that. And then we got to, the last 2 years, and all of my friends were doing 20 miles. They signed me up for it. I was like, what? And why I really didn't want to do 20 miles, because you had to train for it. You couldn't just like bash out 10 miles, and kind of walk the last two. 20 is a little different. And so I had to wake up every Sunday morning, 7 with the rest of them, and start with 3 miles, then 6 miles, then 9, then 13, then 15, then 17, then 19, then 20. It was the race day. And when it got to race day, I was like, holy camoli, you just ran 19 miles last week. You're winning, buddy. You never thought you could do that. But it took me a while to get that mindset, because I'd still be fixated on the goal. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't hit that goal, it's like, oh, the world has ended. But, tick the box, move on to the next one. But that was one key moment. It's like, oh yeah, you never thought you could do 19. You just did it. Okay, 20 is going to be a piece of cake. And so it's really for me, it's less like if I fail, it's not a big deal. It's kind of like, if you shoot for the stars, you might end up on the moon.
Yeah.
but I still kind of want to go to the stars. I mean, the moon's kind of lonely. The stars are even more lonely, but at least it's the stars.
Much hotter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I like the heat.
So it's about the person you become on the way, and the higher the goal you set, like regardless of whether you achieve it or not, you still become somebody worthy of that level.
Yeah, I don't know about worthy, but it's more like it's almost like a state of mind you unlock, which is you realize what you can do, and so you start with the smallest thing that can get you towards that top of the mountain, and then you move to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then blah blah blah, and then once in a while you might look back and be like, "Geez, I'm halfway up." I didn't even think I'd make it past the first step, right? And you're like, only halfway to go. I just did that. I could probably do it some more, and it was a similar thing with running those 20 miles was because I really didn't like running. I think that's why they signed me up for it. It was kind of like a torture, bastards. But it was more of, yeah, okay, now I see, it's very much a state of mind. And when I go on runs now by myself or with friends, like, oh, I can't go any further. I'm like, you probably can't. You're just not aware you can't, and the only way you know is if you try. And I guess, yeah, that's kind of why I like the startup grind as well. It's the world feels like it's ending every day, or it's like complete euphoria, it's going great, and then you just have to do it all over again.
And for me, if we look at, if the world is a simulation, and let's say for each of us there was a preset kind of boundary around what we're supposed to be doing, I think doing the hard thing is like expanding your zone of comfort. It's allowing yourself to be okay with moving to things that were not predestined, let's say, for you, which are comfortable, easy. And I saw this video where they put a spider and then they took a marker and put a circle around it. And for a good while, the spider would not cross the border. And then they went closer and closer to the spider until the point where it was so close that it had to put one of its legs out. And after it did that, like regardless of how many times they've like tried to put another circle, it would still just not even notice the circle, because that's not a boundary it can see anymore. I think it kind of applies to the way you do it. You just go with hard things to maybe tell yourself that there are no boundaries really. Like whatever you want, you can do it. It's just about decision.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nice reminder. It's like a little revision session.
And what do you think about when you go running?
Oh, that's a journey too. It normally starts out with, "Oh, I'm a bit stiff today. God." Like,
Oh, getting older now.
yeah, literally, yeah, like legs of lead. And then, oh, isn't that nice? The sun's rising, and oh, okay, boo, boo, boo. Oh, it's a strong headwind. Gosh, got to make it through this part. Oh, what's that smell? Oh, fishermen out, the birds. Wow, very in the moment, very in the moment. And eventually, I get to, if I go like a longer distance, like more than 6 miles, I start to switch off. Like I go enter flow state, just step after step. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was here. Yeah, now it's more of a thing to like clear my mind, and it's the cheapest form of exercise in San Francisco because this place is expensive. It's hell.
Cheapest way to commute.
Yeah,
Just run.
literally, yeah. I was thinking, I was like, I could run to the office.
Do you do a lot of sports outside of running?
No. And reason being, hard to organize. People, you got to depend on them. Everybody's got their own thing. Running, I can just get up, go, put the trainers on. I'd like to do more sports. I did a lot of sports during childhood and at uni. I really enjoyed the team aspect of sports. Right now, no. I don't know, might pick up football or soccer, sorry. Just like a little kickabout, just to like, just to, calm the mind. Or office cricket. No, too
Like
busy coding.
bringing the British culture into the office.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think and not for like, I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to build a cult, right? I think that's the deep down subconscious thing that's happening where, even if I don't realize I'm doing it, I am definitely doing it. Like we went out for lunch yesterday as a team, and like everybody
Fish and
was
chips, of course.
yeah. Unfortunately, no. The guy he got a burrito. He got burritos. I had a sandwich though. Very British, like meal deal. But
Piece of bread with
yeah,
what was it? Baked beans on top, right? Sandwich.
yeah, that's the usual. That's the baked beans on toast, exactly.
Do you also put crisps in
No,
yours?
no, 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 no,
No.
no.
Okay.
You know why the
Not that
crisps?
British.
Sorry, Eva, the crisps here aren't good enough to do that.
Oh. Oh.
But yeah, everybody's wearing merch. It's like, it's rare I see that other companies where everybody's wearing the company merch. Maybe Strictness because they're around the corner from us. And
Wait,
I like
who?
that. Strictness.
Astronis. Okay,
Yeah.
because I thought you said astronomer. And I was like, okay,
Oh
that's
no.
the guy. Okay. The famous guy now.
Yeah.
When looking for people to bring to your team, because there is a lot of responsibility on your shoulders because you're doing something insanely complex and now you have a lot of responsibility in front of like investors and everything. What do you look for in people that you are actively bringing to the team on this hard journey? Like, what are your green flags and red flags?
Resilience, communication skills. The reason being those two, just to start with, is because expertise is great. Whether you have a PhD in quantum engineering or whatever, but this is a long slog as well, like a PhD, let's say. But the leverage and the trade-offs and the timescales are very different, and the cost of failure is very different too. And then communication skills, because if you can have like clarity of written word or spoken word, it means it correlates to how you think. And what we're building is so multidisciplinary. You'll really need to be able to talk quantum or learn quantum, because if you can speak it really well and explain it to the fundamentals, then it probably means you understand it pretty well. To the machine learners, and the machine learners will need to, teach and fundamentally understand the machine learning to teach the quantum engineers. And that's just internally. I feel we have actually a duty as people building on the frontier of what's possible to educate people outside of our social sphere. Because, quantum computing, AI, it's like, okay, but what's it going to do for me? And the resilience thing, it cascades all the way down to how you approach your work. Oh, it's not working. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Or will you try and fix it now? Or, oh, it's not working, I'll give up. Or, oh, I don't really understand this, so I'm just going to avoid it. It's something many scientists are guilty of, because there's a certain ego of being very smart. And so you want to be smart in the field, and you want to be the best in that field. But then if someone presents you with a problem of, let's say, I don't know, simulating, let's say, antigens or antibodies, and you're a physicist, you might say, "Oh, that's beneath me." Well, it's probably not. It's just you don't have a clue what you're doing, and you can't bear the pain of not dealing with that. And yes, and I think that's the thing, and so where many people, obviously it's nice to have like the labels and the brand names, and oh, this person did PhD and blah, 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 and this person's an expert. But look, at the end of the day, the work just needs to get done, and and the work gets done by people, at least from what I've seen so far, with just like an attitude to get it done, and are just going to plow through walls and learn as much as possible and not scoff at things, and put in their best work, rather than oh yeah, I went to this lab, or I worked at this company and we did X, Y, Z, and that's why you should take me. Because look, it's a different ball game. You really have to have a tenacity for research, and some of that I've kind of like figured out from working with other PhDs and postdocs, but as well as like people building startups very quickly, that they also have a research tenacity too, of just running experiments and iterating. But the approach is very different. It's more quick. I need feedback as much as possible. I'll deal with it. Sure, it's humbling, but I don't care. I'm aiming for this bigger goal. Maybe the typical postdoc or PhD might be, oh no, I won't get my Nature paper. And it's like, okay. Like, great.
Yeah.
We still have a problem to solve here. Let's get it done. Yeah. If I wanted to be concise, those two things. Obviously, yeah, I was a bit less concise as to why those reasons I'm breaking them, but those are the main two.
How many interviews have you had to go through when picking people for your team?
Personally,
Yeah.
not that many actually. I went through the numbers with Joel the other day, but our strike rate was quite good. So I think it was like after 5 in-person interviews, we found the one. And now, now we're a team of 3. But that first hire is very important.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very important.
Because you have to be culturally aligned 100%.
Exactly. I mean, they're basically a pseudo founder in a sense,
Yeah.
But that's in-person interviews. Obviously the whole like filtering of like coding and whatever, and personal projects and chatting to over the phone. It just depends on what method you use to source. But even then, I don't think we spoke to that many people. It's like, I think a couple hundred odd or so. That we just, and there's tons of inbound. I think that's one thing about doing a deep tech startup. It's like, it makes it a lot easier to hire in theory, because just the people willing to jump on the ship are like way more than,
Yeah.
I'm building AI for X, which arguably we are kind of building AI for quantum, but
Well, you're kind of playing the game on both sides.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. So
Can you tell me a bit more about your experience? Because you went through Y Combinator, something that like it almost has this magic around it, because everybody's trying to get in. We know there's like 30,000 applications each year that gets sifted through. When you were considering your options, you were still in Oxford doing your PhD, or creating the concept and in parallel. What were your thoughts at that time? How did you make the decision to apply to YC specifically?
that's a long story. It boils down to, I think, a lot of cumulative information over many years, right? It's not like, oh, I looked at, the website and I was, okay, yeah, we should apply. It was, I've heard of Michael Seibel, heard of Tom Blomfield. I used Monzo Bank and Tom's a group partner at YC. I use Gmail, Paul Buchheit. So it's kind of like you have that subconsciously. But also, there are other startups that we looked up to greatly that went through YC. One of the first quantum computing startups ever was Rigetti Computing, led by Chad Rigetti, and he went through YC in 2014, alongside, I think, Helion Energy and so on. Worked out for him. People would say, oh, they don't do deep tech. Actually, if you look a little closer, they do a lot of deep tech. And then two was, I could just stay here in the UK and stay in Oxford and do it that way. But Joel and I, my co-founder, we'd been around many university spinouts. During my master's year, I worked in a lab where I was sensing nanoparticles using microcavities, a competitor to kind of Theranos. And the tech was really good, by the way. It wasn't, it worked.
Not the Theranos type.
No.
Okay.
And great team, great postdoc. Yeah, he had a huge impact on my approach to research and science and entrepreneurship. That's a long story. and they did a university spin out. And, I saw Chris Ballant spin out Oxford Ionics across the road. I saw Simon Benjamin, John Morton spin out Quantum Motion, Peter Leak, Oxford Quantum Circuits. So there's spin outs galore. And I think I just wanted to do it differently. There was something, it felt like something was missing. And I don't know if it was how I got that vibe just from looking at how other startups performed and just approach their work compared to the traditional deep tech Oxford University spinouts. And, there's an argument for both cases. One's a deep tech thing, another one's typically B2B SaaS. But at the same time, I think you can take a lot of that ethic of the, launch, get things done quickly, write code, talk to users, build product attitude versus, we've won this excellent grant from the government and we're going to, do this here and get a bunch of people on board. And so I kind of just wanted that fast paced mindset to proliferate and be on the ground building.
Is there really like such a big difference? Because for me, for example, Chris Bollas's story, even though he decided to stay with Oxford Ionics, they've got, I think, acquired a couple of months ago by US company. So there's like, you can see this kind of progress, but like the story is not something that you could think you would see a film about in 5 years, And then when you look at companies that go to YC, and it's almost like living through a like startup TV show that you saw. It's almost like you can be a part of the story that maybe you'll get a TV show or a film written about one day. Just kind of a lot more brighter, a lot more music, a lot more people around. But maybe it's just my perception because you've seen both like very closely. What can you say?
I think to be fair to Chris, I think Chris is actually an exception. I think Chris is actually fantastic. What he's done. Like I've seen Chris in certain scenarios and just the tenacity he has. It's like, yeah, this guy gets it. He gets it. But yeah, I think the other thing is many of the products I just used every day were Y Combinator startups. Yeah. And two, it boils down to the saying that I think every founder of VC kind of deals with, which is, let's say you want to win a gold medal at the Olympics.
Okay.
And you get to pick your coach. Who do you choose? Someone who's won gold medals at the Olympics, someone who's been an Olympic athlete, tried to win, or someone who's written about the Olympics and they're a great journalist and they've seen a lot of Olympians and the startups is the Olympics, right? And I think it kind of boiled down to that. If you had the opportunity, I want to be trained by Olympians, and I want to be surrounded by Olympians, people who are all in. Not maybe half my role is at the company and half my role is as a professor. That has its benefits because you get access to university facilities and talent pool. There are so many benefits to do that. And to be honest, I think the spin-out system that Oxford has built is clearly working for them because they are churning them out. I mean, look, Oxford's just got acquired, right? But for the founder who is young and maybe not a professor, aka me, and I grew up in a different age where, oh, look, you can build software and impact the world from your bedroom. I guess I'm just kind of culturally more aligned with that sort of side of the boat than the other side.
Can you tell me about your experience at YC? Has the 3 months you've spent there changed a lot within you? What did it give you?
It was great. I try and keep the mindset of I haven't left YC. So I still have the demo day countdown timer for every demo day. Set 3-month goals, set 2-week goals, set monthly goals, still do group office hours with the people in our batch, still do office hours with our group partner, Tom. And it changed me in a way in that I realized it was okay to be crazy and probably actually beneficial, rather than being told, probably not possible. Maybe you should go here and study this, or wait a bit and then do that. Whereas, hey, I'm building a quantum computer on silicon chips, or building this AI software, 10-minute call. Yeah, you're crazy. Come over here. Here's $500,000. Versus, I don't know if you can do it. Maybe you should chat to so-and-so and then figure it out. What's the core IP and blah, blah, blah. I think the Y Combinator model has fundamentally proven that, look, like smart technical founders will build their way or try to build their way to success, and also sell their way to success, because you want to make something people want.
Because you have a good combination, right, of both. You're a highly technical person, but then if you look at your upbringing, like those core pieces of skills that were instilled in you, they're a lot entrepreneurial, a lot about selling, a lot about dealing with customers as well, right?
Yeah.
So you have a nice mix of both.
Yeah. And I think the thing that might surprise people is I've seen it in YC, like you can quickly learn the sales. I've kids dropping out of college, earning a good few, Ks of MRR and ARR, very quickly. It's harder to do the technical stuff and also do it with taste, especially with AI tools to help you build things very quickly. But you always want to have like a bit of taste in there, and the user experience. I think that will get better and better. But yeah, you can learn sales. You can learn sales. I think YC helps with that, because you're kind of, and that comes with a communication and understanding. It's like you're constantly pitching and explaining what you do to people, constantly asking, oh, how did you close that contract? What were the tricks you used? How do you do the cold calls? I was talking to a guy last night. So what do you do before they hang up the phone? It's like, well, I have this one killer line.
Are you going to share the killer line?
I think I probably won't say it as well as he does, but so maybe I can recommend them for an interview. But it's his line. It's his line.
Your money or your life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What would you choose?
So take it. And if you look at yourself, we're getting to the really good question. What would you say is the difference between Brandon prior to Oxford, and then Brandon prior to YC, and then the Brandon that we see today?
Prior to Oxford is hard, because I worry whatever I say, I'll be looking back with like rose-tinted glasses. I think it's aggression. I think Brandon's just got more and more aggressive in each one of those stages. Yeah.
I can hear it in your voice. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Sure, okay, I've got a more technical and whatever, but but fun, like who I am as a person, I think I've gotten more aggressive.
How does that show in the voice?
You do what you need to do to get things done. Someone says, "Oh, we've never done this before, so we can't." Well, why not?
Do it.
Yeah, just like move the walls, okay, or chisel away at them. Then less of, oh, okay, I guess I'll try somewhere else, or this is impossible. Okay, they said they're closed. Okay. Because if you really have to will your products and startup into existence. So, I think it helps getting lucky, but you got to be in the right scenario to get lucky, and also the right mindset to get lucky. You might get lucky, you might not even see it. You walk away from the poker table while the dice is, while the flop's coming in the river. So yeah, I think honestly, I think it's aggression. It helps, and not like I'm there, beating people up, but just willing to move things along, even if it makes human beings uncomfortable, because the mission is greater than that moment in time.
Has this made you less tolerant to mediocrity?
Yeah. I've always been that way. I've always, no. And I think the reason why I've been that way is because there's always been very high standards placed on me. It's just from like childhood,
Yeah.
but also in school. I think that just boils down to kind of like the, some people are prejudiced and whatever, and you kind of like have to prove them wrong. But you don't necessarily have to, but to be taken seriously, sometimes you do. And so it's just like, okay, cool. I'll just be the best. Fine.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if I can do it, come on, let's go. Let's go. Tidy your room. Let's move. But at the same time, I think realizing then what's possible, because it's okay, you go from being told you're going to fail your maths GCSE to doing it a year early, to doing maths A level early, to doing further maths, So then it's like when someone says, oh, I'm not really too good at maths, I'm like, you can probably do it. Trust me. Like, I believe in you, I was told I would fail. Literally, I was told, like day one, like.
I flopped my further math A levels. I gotta see.
All right.
Oh yeah.
I believe in you, buddy. You want to retake it? You could probably do it. Because because this is the thing, though. You're a human being, right? You're one of the best AI agents that evolution has ever manifested. You're multimodal. As multimodal as it gets. So given enough time, you'll do it. So yeah, low tolerance to that.
Was there a specific moments, lessons that you remember, which maybe you've looked back with regret as like, I could have been more aggressive, I could have had a different outcome? Or maybe somebody told you something that, made you reconsider your aggression as something good and positive rather than something that makes you a bad person.
I used to have a lot of like, oh, if only I'd done da da da. Now, you ain't got time for that. You learn the lesson, you move on. You're playing the next point, you focus on the next point. You lose that point, okay, next point. You win that point, who cares? Next point. You play the game. But what I have learned, especially when I see other people operate, is the best people just know exactly when to apply it. Because sometimes it just doesn't work. You go to the front desk of maybe, I don't know, and for example, I don't know, anywhere, and you're trying to get past the front desk, and it's like, oh, do you have ID or do you have RSV? What do? You shout at the person at the front desk? That's not gonna work. Yeah, do you know who I am? No, they're probably better at their job than you are. That's why they're there and you're on the other side. So what do? Maybe chat to them, explain the situation. So it's almost like a different form of aggression. You're still not taking no for an answer. And you probably founder mode your way through if you want to use that zeitgeist of a word. But it's not as simple as just being shouty and angry. It's also just, I think it boils down to just not taking no.
Knowing when to be soft, knowing when to be hard.
Yeah, exactly. But still having that resilience to keep pushing.
Almost, it's better to be a samurai in a garden than being a gardener at war, is the phrase that I've heard.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, maybe. I have to think about that one.
Something that, is quite popular. Psychiatrist, I think, Jordan Peterson, maybe you've heard of him. He likes to say that as men, we need to understand our internal monster and take a hold of him to make sure that we can become aggressive when we need to. It's not really aggression, it's about being assertive when this is something that is just and there is something that needs to be done. And that kind of ties to, it's better to be prepared and have that capability within you when you don't need it, than to not have it when it's extremely important.
I like that.
It's something that because I've struggled for a bit with. My father was very strict and aggressive, and when we were working together in a family company with Flour Mill, I would work with him and he would be really strict with everyone. And I would hate that because then I would see myself in all of the people he was being strict with. And I was trying to be soft and I was trying to be kind, trying to be liked. And then when I started starting my own companies, I've realized that, like, for example, in my IT company, within the first like 3-4 years, I was too soft. And that was the reason why the people who were at top positions were not that qualified. They weren't the best people. Like, and I knew that just had to find new ones, find better people, find better systems, and demand more from them. But then it was hard for me to be assertive and aggressive with them. It's only a little later date that I've realized that it's essential because you're building something that will stand for ages and that will help change the world in a great way. And in order to do something big, you need to be able to sacrifice that worry about being perceived as bad. Everybody's trying to be liked. Can we talk a little bit about the world of quantum? I've read an article 2 days ago that with the world of crypto, we have Satoshi Nakamoto, and he has his wallet with, I think, something like 127. Well, he has 1 million bitcoins. He's like $127 billion on it. And then I went to ChatGPT and I was like, okay, quantum compute cannot break that code. What do we do quantum computing? And ChatGPT is like, well, within the next 5-7 years, quite possible that those computers will be able to just break it within like 5 minutes. And they got me thinking, okay, so that's almost inevitable. Like, how is quantum computing going to affect the world of like humanity moving towards this crypto kind of financial systems? Is anyone safe?
Yes. Quantum will make crypto stronger. Crypto is one of those things where it's just extremely resilient. And we see it time and time again. Everybody thought it wouldn't exist. Funnily enough, now you can buy futures and options on the thing, right? Everybody thought there was a bunch of nerd money. It's still here. You got the president launching tokens. Could you believe it? In this world, would you, and you really think about that. 6 years ago, people were saying, oh, it's over. Here we are. So quantum makes crypto stronger in that we're going to see cryptocurrencies upgrade to more quantum secure algorithms for signing and sending transactions, as well as generating private and public keys, basically wallets. Now, it's why I say, are people safe? The answer is yes. Actually, some of them are. The vast majority are. Because it's an interesting case with Satoshi's coins in that, this is what I mean by crypto is very resilient. They realized this was a problem, the crypto community in the early days, particularly I think the Bitcoin community, in that, quantum will break public key cryptography. So what do? Said, well, quantum's not good at breaking hashing algorithms, but it will reverse the public-private key pair. But if you hash something, SHA-256, whatever, you're okay. I think it's Grover search, you'll get maybe a square root speed up. So it's actually not that much faster than a classical computer. So what they started doing was hashing public keys. So you have your public key, you hash it, and that's all the blockchain sees is the hash of the public key. That's the only thing that's publicly available for a moment. And so the quantum computer can't reverse the public key because it only sees a hash of the public key. So it first have to break the hash, then break the public key. So that's not going to happen. And that's like for the vast majority of tokens on Bitcoin or whatever. But there are some older wallets, Satoshi, whatever, that they didn't upgrade to that form of wallet. Where what happens in the new form is, okay, if I want to send you some Bitcoin, let's say I have 10 Bitcoin in my wallet and I want to send you 1. What happens is I send 10 Bitcoin out to the network. 1 goes to you and the other 9 goes to a change address that belongs to me. It's like the 9 remaining in change. And that change address is a hashed public key. But the original wallet that I sent my 10 from, because I have to spend those coins, that public key is now exposed. So if I was to reuse that wallet, because now it has 0, because I sent you 1 and 9 to the change address with an exposed public key, yeah, that's in trouble with quantum computing. But my new wallet with the 9, that's fine, because the public key is hashed. You only expose the raw public key when you spend coins. So the easiest way to keep your money safe is basically don't reuse a wallet address. Okay. Here's the thing: Satoshi and the rest of them, whoever it is, I don't know. They were on the old school wallets where you just reuse the same address. They didn't have this change address protocol implemented yet by default in the wallets because they didn't think of the quantum secure aspect yet. So yeah, there's like, I think, a good chunk of change that's sitting behind these exposed public keys that would be broken by a quantum computer should it get to reasonable power to break RSA and ECDSA, elliptic curve digital. Well,
And the
elliptic
price
curve
is
signatures.
some $127 billion. Well, more
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
connect all of the wallets with abandoned addresses, people who are no longer existing or forgot their
yeah,
passwords and everything.
exactly, yeah, things like that. But then at the same time, these networks are unbelievably resilient because you could even argue there have been more threatening things that have happened to Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies before. I mean, there was the hack of a major exchange, Mt. Gox, where the network was like, I think like 5-10% of this current supply at the time just disappeared into hackers' hands. The community could have reversed those transactions. I think they chose to just continue, you know. Ethereum with a DAO hack, the dodgy smart contract that just got drained. Ethereum's still here today. And so it'd be something very similar where you basically have these wallets that just get drained, and then the community, whoever, will have to decide, okay, do we stay on this chain or do we fork the thing and say, okay, we'll pretend like that didn't happen and blacklist those addresses. It's happened. Or do we just upgrade to a quantum secure protocol in the meantime? So it could be like, yes, possible, but probably will be all right.
Are there already startups doing quantum secure?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they're already public. They're already secure public-private key protocols that are resilient to quantum. In fact, if you use iMessage or Signal, I think last I read, they've upgraded to quantum secure encryption. So they're out there,
So would you say in the quantum race, this is like the honeypot, the prize pool that everybody's right now trying to get to?
No. And the reason why I say that is because, look, you go into the NIST website today, you can find quantum secure algorithms. No one's stopping you from using them. It's just in the community-wide effort, and also obviously I say obviously, it's not obvious, but cryptocurrencies have this problem where they're limited by block size and how much data they want to transmit through the network to keep things fast and so on. But if you're communicating with a website and your credit card details, we've got stuff to take care of that. What people are definitely afraid of is the store now, decrypt later. So, okay, I have my hard drive, it's encrypted with AES. Quantum computer doesn't exist today. But when it does exist, all of those old AES encrypted files and so on, they're gone. Forget about it. Quantum computers got that. And so I think that there's this fear that a lot of the big nation states and geopolitics as well. So it's this double-edged sword, and I want to be that's why I want to add the nuance, because a lot of people will say, oh, we need to, give me $1 billion to build a quantum computer because someone else is going to break AES. It's like, just upgrade your encryption thing and you'll be okay. But at the same time, if you're storing it and you want to break it, then yeah, that's the best way to do it. Conversely, the number of qubits required is still very high. The quality of those qubits, i.e. the reliability of them, still very high. And there's 5 to 7 years, of course, all things going well and, things being equal. But there's another thing of, well, you still got to build the thing.
What are the crypto blockchain projects that you're the most bullish?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really. Yeah.
You don't follow them.
No, yeah.
That's just the secrets of the quantum society. We'll
Yeah,
do that after. It's not
like
going to
in
make
that
it.
regard, from like a quantum regard, I have no clue. Honestly, I think for me, it's like whoever just upgrades the quantum secure stuff first. Like, it's like, great, you thought about it, But I don't really care. I think, yeah, I don't know.
Because, like, working on a startup which is funded in the quantum sphere, you could just be like, hey guys, this is a great opportunity to start building something that's quantum resilient.
Yeah.
And just that one post on LinkedIn or something could just mean somebody will see it and be like, oh, I can do that. I can tackle that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then be the next Matoshi Sakamoto.
Yeah, Bratoshi.
Brotoshi. And maybe one more question with your current trajectory. How do you think Brandon in 10 years is going to be different from Brandon now?
Brandon in 10 years will be older.
Thank you. That's a pot.
Maybe some more gray hairs. But I think Brandon in 10 years will be doing the same thing. Or at least I'll feel the same way about my work. I don't think that's going to change. I think Brandon in 10 years will be both proud of what Brandon's achieved, but also just looking forward to the next thing, continuing to build. Because when I think now, it's like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel now. A lot of people is, oh, you got into IC, oh, you went to Oxford. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I kind of just want to build.
Yeah.
And I know, yeah, sure, it's kind of just like a journey to this point, and I want to like focus on that. And so I don't think that'll change.
How big of a motivation for you is money?
I was thinking about this the other day and trying to steelman myself and say, because I don't think it's that much. And the reason why I make that argument with myself is because I was doing the same thing for below minimum wage as a PhD student, and I'd still do it now. The reason why I wanted to do it this way is because I believe that this is how we do it to the best of our abilities. We're building to win, not, and by win, like get the thing out there and make the best product possible for people to use, not just publish a paper. And so once again, it kind of boils down to like the journey, like life in SF. It's expensive compared to the UK. As founders, Joel and I had this chat where it's, look, as long as you have enough money to be comfortable and just focus on building the thing, then we're good. Because otherwise, I mean, like it's easier to get rich other ways. And sometimes we've thought about it. Oh, this was pre-building Conductor. We worked on something together called Feynman, and it was like an AI science researcher. So basically like deep research kind of thing, but for academic papers. And, we got a bit of traction with that, and VC funding was, getting offered, and people in Oxford are going berserk. Oh, it's going to be the next big thing. And I was just like, do we really want to do this? Like when we get out of bed every morning and our feet touch the ground, are we happy with what we're doing? When we have this opportunity to build the best control characterization software, that will be the precursor to building, the world's best quantum computing experience. No way. Of course I'm going to pick I say of course, but for me and Joel, yeah, of course we're going to pick that. And then we realized, okay, cool. I think what you value will definitely change over time. Maybe, I get older, okay, you want just a bit more security, so to speak. But right now, we just want to change the world.
And let's say you agree to get acquired, post acquisition, you and Joel get 100 mil each. How are we going to notice? Is it going to affect your lifestyle in any major way? Well, except for the camera quality.
It's yeah, lots flowing through my head. Two things. One, I'd rather be like rich and private than kind of like famous and rich. I'd also love to pay it forward. I think, seeing other entrepreneurs, that you might see it that way, like, oh, angel check from Brandon or whatever. I love that idea of supporting other founders on their journey and building great things. And even if it's not financially, but just like having a chat with them, So yeah, I've been through that too. But you know, you never know. I mean, like, look at Jeff Bezos. The guy was like riding in a Honda, and now he's like renting Venice.
Yep.
You know, he's balling, he's balling out of control. Like, so that's why I was cracking up laughing. Like, who am I to say what I turn into? But no, I don't know. I don't know if
Private
it,
plane, gold chains,
yeah, exactly, right?
Rolex.
You know, and I mean, look, the joke is you can get that now, right? But it's kind of a
Is it gonna
distraction.
is it gonna get you fulfilled?
Oh, definitely not.
That's the thing.
100% not. I'm one of the worst with that. I like Joel calls me one pair branded because I have one pair of shoes.
I have two pairs of sneakers that I wear.
Nice, nice, nice. But who knows? You know, I might buy a shoe shop one day. I don't know. Right. Yeah.
Being aggressive is like the most essential thing you can do if you want to like achieve any kind of level of success, I guess. It's knowing how to use that.
Yeah. 100%. No, it's creepy, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to realize how you can bend the world towards your will.
Bend the spoon.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my favorite things in the Matrix. You know, there is no spin.
Do you have any of those like secret ways that you perceive the world that you don't tell anyone? You don't want to seem crazy, but then you kind of understand that there is a way to bend the spoon, and by doing these small like rituals or thinking in a certain way, you kind of get to that point.
Yeah, because yeah. So the way I think when we describe the world, we basically mean other people, quite frankly. You know, we're not talking about pruning a tree or you know, like raking the leaves kind of world. It's you want to get somewhere and there's someone in the way, or you want to buy something or you want to achieve something and someone's saying it's not possible or you have to wait. And what I think I realized very quickly, and I learned this at Oxford. I also learned it earlier, but I really saw it at Oxford, which is once there's a human being in the loop, the system is able to be bent, if not completely broken, because human beings are not lines of code. They have needs, wants, urges, desires. It's what makes humans humans. And so often the biggest thing that's limiting them is trust, which is if I let you do this, will it hurt me in some way? Will it, you know, and so you almost have to build a trust that it's worth it for them. Or, come on, it's me. I'm not going to do anything bad. I want this for the best of everyone, you know. Or support me. I'm on this journey to change the world. Don't you want to be part of that too? Do you want to be the person who tried to slow this mission down? Or, hey, why didn't you come with me? Think about what we can do together. Obviously, that sounds horrible and very manipulative, but I think I hate to say it, but I think it's true. Because these rules, these things, they're all made up by people. Oh, you can't check in until 3 p.m. Why? Well, we need time for the cleaners to go in. Have the cleaners been in? Yes. Oh, so I need to make a call. I need the Wi-Fi. Let me get into the room. You know, and just that push, because they wouldn't have known the cleaners had been in because they wouldn't have bothered checking because there's just this rule 3 p.m. So there's no way the cleaners, you know, you see what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And then they check, oh, the cleaners have it. Or, hey, I need to stay another day at this place. Can you help me out? Sure. And we'll give you a reduced rate because we like you. You know, and I slowly, and I learned this over time. And I remember visiting Budapest as a young chap after secondary school. And I went to a music festival out there with a bunch of friends, and I could barely speak any, you know, Hungarian or anything.
The hardest language.
Yeah, but I quickly realized that despite I was foreign, and I don't look like many Hungarians, put it that way, so people could tell I was foreign. It went a long way to be grateful, and I think it's the same in any culture. So, you know your pleases and thank yous. And so I asked this, you know, lady at the cafe, like, how do I say please and thank you? And I think I can't remember. One of them is like kosonom or something like that. I'm at this music festival, and I remember like in the morning they'd serve breakfast and people are queuing up at this breakfast place where it's like porridge and flipping acai bowls in Hungary, amazing, right? On the Danube. And so when I got to the front of the line, got my porridge and fruit, and I said thank you in Hungarian. And she was blown away. Couldn't believe it. And so the next day, I didn't have to queue in line. I could walk to the front and she'd have my porridge ready for me because I was the only one who said please and thank you in the native language. You know, and that was, I was like, oh, okay, human being, yeah, rules. And everyone's like, what? And before they knew it, they thought I worked there, you know?
Yeah.
Similarly at uni, where Oxford is this very elite institution, and you know, I mean, 90% or it's something crazy. At least when I applied, 60% of the students who went to Oxford went to a private school in the UK, and only 10% of schools in the UK are private. So it's, you know, you just get a bunch of rich people there. And then you have the staff who come from all walks of life. They're local, you know, they're immigrants from, you know, the rest of the world. They work in the kitchens, they're cleaners, but they decide who gets a room, who gets to live in the college, what you're going to have for dinner, what you're going to have for breakfast. And before you knew it, they were my best friends. And so sometimes I might forget my lunch card. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. We won't charge you. Or, oh, you need an extra night? Sure, it's fine. Oh, you're staying here for your PhD? We don't normally give rooms to people who've already been in the college for 4 years, but we'll give you a year for the start of your PhD. It's a human being in the system. If that was a line of code, if student has stayed in then do not give room. But it's the relationship. And I think that's actually one thing I lost a bit in YC, which was you want to close deals, you want to close LOIs, you want to close contracts, put the pressure on, get it before demo day. But I think with deep tech, it's a little different because the community's tiny. I know every single founder and CEO in silicon quantum computing personally. And so what am I doing trying to burn bridges to hustle their asses to sign something they may or may not want to sign? It's more of a, let's build a relationship, guys. Really think about this from first principles. You know, we're building the future together. It's not just me trying to get VC dollars. It's us actually trying to build a quantum computer and build great control software. And, you know, if we do this together, think about what we can achieve. And I think I've gotten that back actually since leaving YC. And that's just the nature, I think, of being in like a B2B SaaS sort of environment. But at the same time, when you look at some of the best the best performing companies in YC, yeah, there's always that founder that has that inkling of, oh, at this point in the conversation when they're, you know, on the sales call, let me just chill out. Relax. Listen to the person you're talking to. What do they care about, for goodness sake? Keep them chatting. And you know, at the end of the day, they're a human being too. They're going through the struggle. They want to build their thing. They want to keep their job. They want to do great. What can you do to make them happy? You know, and make them realize you're not just out to get them. You actually want to build something of use and benefit the life. And if they're not interested, okay, cool. Move on to the next. That's okay.
You could be a great politician. Like the kind of guy who just goes to any restaurant and they're like, oh, Mr. Severin. And I was like, how do they know you? It's everywhere like that.
You know, this comes from childhood, was that, and I only realized that recently, and was that you can learn something from everyone. Everybody's really smart in their own way. It may not be something you're interested in, but they know something you don't. And why not learn it? You know, because it's like, you know, for all you know, you could learn it. It could help you down the line, or you could pay it forward. And it's a similar argument to being well read in a sense. You know, you read many different things, you learn about different cultures, different viewpoints. Even if you don't agree with them, you can see things from different perspectives and personas. But similarly, it's very similar to being well read, but with people and understanding, hey, you know, Brandon's taken this journey from the UK to San Francisco. I wonder what that was like. And understanding the little things of, I know other founders moving here, and where do I live? What area is nice? Where should I get my groceries? You know, how much, and those little, and just helping people with that. They're like, okay, because you're all in it. You remember you were there too, you know? And so that's why I think it's worth taking a step back and understanding, bending the world, but it's other human beings, and human beings are beautiful creatures, and we're also ugly creatures too. You know? But at the end of the day, we're all human. Yeah, you got to care. You got to care.
Mhm.
You know, you
Yeah.
got to care.
That is what I learned also earlier on. I think it's mostly learned about myself. For me, money, like, we're all gonna die one day. It's like, what's the money worth? I don't know. Just buying a Rolex, buying like Ferrari, you'll have a fun for like 2, 3 months, not
Yeah,
much. And then I realized that the whole meaning of life is, well, for me anyway, it's just playing games that are interesting to you with people that you like. And that's it. All of us are just experiencing this world in different ways. Like, everybody's playing something that they like. It's just finding your own clique, your own people, and then just doing something that you enjoy with them for like 50, 60 years, however long.
exactly. And the other thing is it may seem like some games are insignificant, but actually I feel almost every game is crucial. But you don't need to look at it that way, you know, but in the back of your mind, because these small games add up. The games I'm playing now, building a quantum computer and building control software and whatever with other people. But there was a baby Brandon one day that was playing Monopoly and Pokemon cards, or playing football, you know, or playing rock, paper, scissors, or, oh, God forbid, playing peekaboo as a baby Brandon. And all of those experiences accumulate into Brandon today, into, you know, Jensen Huang, into Jeff Bezos, into Steve Jobs, into Whitney Wolf Herd, into Sheryl Sandberg, you know. And that's why you kind of you can say it takes a village, but you almost don't realize it in the moment.
Yeah. Like, look into the formative years of everything that,
Right.
because I used to be crazy about Pokemon, and we had these like
Yeah.
cards. That was a game.
Yeah. You know, and those little, and it really, it compounds massively, you know. And not to say you can learn otherwise, because, oh, someone, oh, you know, I stole so-and-so's Pokemon card. But then you keep stealing other people's Pokemon cards. Maybe you get caught and someone's like, maybe you shouldn't steal Pokemon cards. Is it really that bad? Yeah. Imagine if I stole your. Okay, maybe I wouldn't do that. Then the neural network weights and biases. Ching, 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 ching. Okay. Sometimes they don't correct. Not the best thing, you know?
And talking about this, you've just mentioned something that got me thinking a lot as well
Yeah.
about how neural nets currently are so much like our own biological brains. Can neural nets perceive emotions? Most people say no, no. Of course, they only feel something. But then when you look, what is a feeling? It basically changes your neural connections. Some become stronger, some become weaker. Like, if you see, like, if somebody hits you with an apple, then you're kind of like, okay, apple is probably more towards scary than useful or tasty. And like, you just change the weights for the word apple in your mind, and it just changes it in your vector database. And then when you look at neural net, if you do something that kind of like is harmful, then it also adjusts the weights within its neural net, which is pretty much what we call a feeling, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Before I comment, I'm not a neuroscientist. Well,
Disclaimer.
yeah, but I think you're right. There is like this kind of like learning loop, but at the same time, there are the initialization of our weights aren't necessarily completely random. Moreover, the learning rate is also adjustable. All these kind of like hyperparameter, you know, and someone might, and this is very, you know, like rudimentary, being crude and boiling everything down, but when a machine learning might tune hyperparameters for their network using optimizers and learning rates and things like dropout or whatever, for a human being, these are all biological things. And biology isn't, it's code, but it's probabilistic code. So there's an element of randomness. Moreover, I said that twice now, but it really is moreover, it's in real time feedback.
and this is why, and it's so complex. This is why, it's fundamentally, it's quantum underlying this thing. So you need a quantum computer to really get there and simulate that sort of logic, but you can get close with approximations. And you can see it day in and day out, right? Where you feel pain, ow, but then you can train yourself to say, hey, it's only pain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we weren't good at that, we wouldn't have amazing special forces and military personnel, or people who get addicted to certain substances or habits. And each time, whatever chemical secretion of oxytocin, dopamine, adenosine, that adjusts, that changes. Tolerances, drinking caffeine, these things. And so I think that's part of the kind of like the score function of your, let's say, or your reward of your reinforcement learning agent.
Yeah.
But you start to realize, it's not as simple as you do this, you get score 1. Score 1 is kind of like 1.2, maybe 0.8. It shoots up this way, and then you're like, and that's just for one narrow problem, but this is happening all the time. And then you realize you can start to control it as well. So, which is why it's beautiful. Which is why it's so fascinating and beautiful.
Nice conversation.
That
was the best Saturday, conversation I could have.
Me too. What a great way to start the day. I'm so happy I woke up for it.
Okay, I think we can call it a pod.